We're at MaxBMW in Troy, New York.
Yes.
Heather's here, by the way.
Hello.
So this is your first time at a dealership, or second time, I guess?
Well, I've been with you a couple of times to Northampton,
Mm-hmm.
but in general, for this process, wait, we're gonna have to start that over. I'm confused. What are you asking?
Well, do you have any thoughts about this experience so far, this today experience of going there and sitting on bikes and
Oh, sure. I mean, this is my first time at the dealer actually sitting on bikes for myself.
you're the customer?
Right.
Yeah.
I've gone with you when you're getting your bike serviced. I've never gone and just sat to actually
They
seriously
weren't pushy
consider.
or like rude or anything.
No, not at all. I mean, we had sent a list of bikes that, I was considering, based on research online and talking to you and looking at different forums. And so the R9T was the first that I jumped onto.
Only because you liked how they look. You love how they look.
I love their design.
Yeah, they look so good.
Which is, I mean, I know I'm talking about design and colors a lot in these, but I have nothing else to base my experience off of because I can't ride them right now.
Yeah. And you were able to flat foot the R9T. This is the regular.
I was, but you know what? Without those boots, I would not have been able to flat foot.
Oh yeah, so everyone probably notices we brought boots this time.
Yes, I had. Well, I had to. I never
It's more
realized how short
representative.
I was, and that at least adds the inch, which I'll always have because I'll never ride without the boots on.
Mm-hmm. How do you like your Foreman Adventure lows?
I love them.
Okay. This is the R9T Urban GS. Did that feel like you were more upright?
So the Urban, actually, I didn't feel like I was flat-footing it as comfortably as I was flat-footing the other one.
I guess because that has more ground clearance because it's supposed to be GS-like, even though it's
Yes.
still just an R9T.
My complaint about them in general was how far forward I had to kind of hunch over for the
Yeah.
handlebars.
So this is directly compared to basically the Tiger 800, right? The Tiger 800 low.
Yes.
So we tried that was the low. This is the low with the standard height suspension, low seat.
Right.
So what was the big difference for you? I mean, I guess I can see in the video here that was a little taller.
It was taller, which was unfortunate. I was hoping that I would like this model and be able to make this model work because it has the added feature.
Right, so the way it works in the configurator is when you buy a premium package F750, it comes with dynamic ESA, but if you want the low suspension version, you have to give up dynamic ESA, and you just get a manual preload adjuster. So, and because Heather doesn't have her MSF yet, she asked me to ride these bikes for her.
Right. I wanted him to sort of feel out the bikes for me. I mean, I realize it's really based on your own experience, but I can't experience them right now, so...
And I know an R1200 GS is way too much bike for you in size and power. I do know that I started on an oil-cooled '09 GSA as my first bike, and while I always tell people it was way too heavy for me, the motor never felt intimidating. So I thought, well, this is lighter than the GS was, same motor as the GS, so maybe it'll be better. But when I rode this, it's actually a lot faster than my GS was because it is less weight. And then in addition to that, it really doesn't have any features to help you from getting in trouble. It's a generation old ABS, it's direct throttle, no traction control on this one, and you have no tachometer, no fuel gauge, and what else? None of like the ESA stuff.
Yeah, and any of the forum posts or threads that I read through, people said this isn't a good beginner bike, but again, I liked the design so much that I figured I'd see what you thought. And I really don't like taking risks or putting myself in a situation where a bike is going to be too powerful or too fast for me or too responsive because I'm going to screw up and I don't want to get hurt. So I was glad that you were able to take it for a spin just to get your take.
I told you I'd be honest with you. I mean, like one of my thoughts this whole time is if you end up hating motorcycling, at least I'll have a bike I can still ride around. But
right, so I know that you really wanted to like the R9T for me because that's so different than your bike,
Mm-hmm.
either of your bikes?
Well, I like boxers, and I wanted a light commuter that I just didn't wear a backpack with.
Right.
And this one was a little too more far hunched forward for me.
Well, that's how I felt when I sat on it in the showroom.
Yeah. So a lot of fun. Like I could imagine like going on little afternoon rides with this thing, but
Well, you also said not a distance. Any distance, this would become uncomfortable because of the hunching forward.
Yeah. And we have a very similarly linked torso, I think.
Apparently, I'm all torso.
Yeah. And one of my biggest takeaways of this one too, beyond just the rawness of it, which I kind of appreciated, but not as a new rider, is the very low suspension travel and how harsh and like jolting it was on every little bump. Like it really didn't eat up any. You see right here how much it pushes me. It didn't eat up any of the bumps at all. It just sort of bucked you off the bike, and that was to me like the last thing you would want as a new rider.
Right. Yeah. I want to feel confident on a bike. I'm probably going to be jostled around anyways, but I don't want it to be extra because of the build of the bike.
And while we're here, you also said on the G310.
I did. That felt very small.
The R.
Yes.
Yes, because the GS, the low GS
was still a little too tall.
Yeah. And they said they'd lowered that one.
I know.
So the G310 GS was too big for her.
The R that I sat on, it was really tiny.
Yeah.
I mean, I know those bikes are, but it felt really small.
And what else did you say on there? Did you anything else? I guess the Urban GS, NineT, 750.
I started to throw a leg over the lower seat 1250.
Oh, the GS, yeah.
But it was just too tall.
Yeah.
It was the regular suspension with a low seat, I think.
So I feel like the R9T is a bike that if we both had bikes that we were touring on and we just wanted a $8,000 or $9,000 used commuter,
shared commuter
to just
bike
sit
or
in the
something.
garage on days where we just wanted to feel the warm, the cool breeze in our hair and like just ride to work, this would be the bike for that.
Maybe for you. I'm still not convinced that I would ever like a bike where I have to lean forward that far.
Okay.
I mean, maybe once I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It just feels very awkward
until
then.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But again, the design, it's a pretty bike.
They look great sitting outside of a cafe.
Oh my God.
They do.
Yep.
I
mean, I like the color.
Yeah.
It's a nice looking bike.
But you can see here like how I'm a little bit hunched over when I'm riding it. Just a little, like a 2 or 3 inch lean forward.
Well, and you're taller than me with longer arms.
That's true too.
Yes.
Gosh,
it looks so small compared to your bike.
Yeah,
but with you on it.
It should be. I mean, I've got a nice little knee bend there.
I do love that color.
I got my high vis shoes on.
Yes. Well.
So again, I'm still comparing to the Tiger. What about the F750 what drew you to it? Is it just that it has...
Well, I feel like I was able to see this a little bit in more depth than the Tiger because you weren't able to take the Tiger for a spin and I wasn't able to see, the dash or any of the other features once it was on because we never turned it on. So I don't know if it's a fair comparison. I mean, the 750 felt like it fit me the best out of any of the bikes that I sat on the whole experience in the last couple of weeks. I knew that I liked your GS, but I also knew it was massive, so I was happy that they had an option that was low enough for short people like me. Or rather, small inseams like me.
I mean, my only complaints with it were really just the short windscreen and the very thin pegs. But those are easily fixable defects.
Yeah, I mean, it was noticeable because the salesperson did hold the bike so that I could put my feet up just to see how my legs felt on the pegs.
Yeah.
And they did feel very small.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm used to the pegs that are on your bike getting on and off as the passenger, but that's using your regular pegs and then the passenger pegs.
Mm-hmm.
But both of those are bigger on your bike than this. These were tiny.
And this kind of brings it back to like the issue with dealers in general. Like, there's no reason we shouldn't have been able to take out a Triumph Tiger. But,
Right.
But like MaxBMW lets you ride it. I mean, this wasn't even a demo. This was just on the show floor with 0 or 48 miles on it. Like,
that's right. They backed this out to take it outside so that you could test it for me. I mean, they were very gung ho about letting you take out pretty much anything that you wanted to test drive on my behalf.
Yeah. Yeah, but there was no qualms. You sign a thing, but that's it. And like every dealer I've ever been to is like, well, we don't really let people test ride bikes. It's just not like they wait for the demo truck to come out once a year, and that's when you get to test bikes, and that's it.
Right.
So my thoughts on it, and it may feel different to you if you ride this after you get your license, because it's a personal experience. But I felt the throttle wasn't direct. It wasn't like I turn it and feel the jolt back. It was a little bit delayed, and that could have just been the ride mode I was in. I was in road, not dynamic. When I put in dynamic, it was way more direct. The brakes were effective, but not jarringly strong. And I felt like the suspension was just way better than the R9T. Like, it soaked up the bumps a lot better, which is nice. When you're trying to do throttle control, you don't want to be trying to circumvent a pothole.
Well, that's also nice to hear, because I was worried about how the suspension would hold up as the low suspension model. Mm-hmm. I didn't know if it would allow for that sort of experience.
When you check the specs, there's only 3/4 of a difference in height.
I know. It's not a huge difference at all. It was just enough for me to feel more comfortable and more confident height-wise with the low suspension than the regular suspension with the low seat.
Do you have any other like overall thoughts on this? Why is this still kind of in your running compared to other bikes? Is it because you were able to flat-foot it? Is that the primary thing?
Well, it had, I mean, kind of any feature that you could want in a bike, it offers. And I don't know what kinds of features I might want to be able to use in the future, since sitting here right now, I don't know how to use some of the features that it offers. But I think that makes it a bike that I can grow into. And according to you, it's not so reactive that it's going to throw me off or throw me back, or, it shouldn't cause me to completely freak out when I first try to ride it. So, and that's what I wanted, right? Like, I wanted to find a bike that I wasn't going to have to try to sell within 3 months of starting to ride it. Something that would last me as many years as I can make it last me. Yeah.
And I'm going to cut you short because I want to show the dynamic launch here.
Sure.
As like an outro clip.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to add about this bike or the experience or anything?
Just that I definitely think this is the bike. I mean, whether this is the specific bike from MaxBMW, I don't know, but I really like it.
Oh, yeah. This thing can absolutely become a I need to get into traffic super fast bike. Like, you need to pull onto the highway, no problem. This thing absolutely has enough power to pull onto the highway without any struggling.
I like this bike. You think it's a low one, you said?
It is.